Salutare cinefil și bine ați venit la un nou episod de Porția de Cinema. Sunt aici cu Alexi, colegul nostru din Thessaloniki și evident vom avea un nou episod în engleză. Hi Alexi, how are you?
Good, thank you for having me. It's really cool to be here. Yesterday we were talking about the cinema experience, about how important it is to focus on the word experience when tackling cinema. And I'm here among a bunch of real pros that understand that, and I'm learning a lot from you guys.
Yeah, that's what I like about changing experiences like this. We can learn from each other. So I'm going to cross now the boring first question. That's mandatory. How's the weather in Greece right now?
It's surprisingly not that different than the one that I found here. When I left, it was we had a sort of winter coming back in. I was actually worried because it looked like summer was starting way too early. I'm sort of an embarrassment for Greeks because I'm not a huge fan of summer. I actually prefer winter. So I'm kind of glad that winter is making a comeback before we really dive into the summer.
At least for a little bit to cool off before summer. That's what happened here, but I didn't expect you to like winter that much.
Yeah, it's surprisingly similar at the moment.
So Furiosa, before Furiosa there was Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
Do you remember how it was to see it on the big screen in terms of atmosphere, the crowd, the hype?
Yeah, I remember it very well. I think I was 24 when it came out, and I was actually blown away by it. To this day, I really feel it's the only movie that I've seen that connects narrative with one big action scene so naturally. I didn't know what to expect because I hadn't seen any of the previous Mad Max films, which I think worked to my benefit because I went in not having any specific expectations. And basically the whole cinema felt like every one of us was in sync and just going through the excitement at the same time. I remember every time the guitar guy came up, like the whole auditorium was cheering because that was the coolest guy in the whole movie.
Nice. I enjoy such moments at the movies, be there with the people that enjoy the same movie as me, even if you're completely strangers.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron were awesome in that movie, sure. But how about Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth? What do you think they'll bring to the table?
Well, I mean, I first discovered Anya with Split. I hadn't watched The Witch, so that was my first encounter with her. And I really felt from back then that she's a 100% star. She has all the star quality in the world. And the great strength of Anya, I think, is that you are generally interested to see her in everything and anything. So just the fact that she's cast in any role, the first question that comes to your mind is, I wonder what she does with it. I wonder how her star quality is adapted into that role. And especially with Furiosa, who is now a cult character, she's part of our lexicon. I'm immensely excited about that. In terms of Chris Hemsworth, I think he has had a long time to prove that he's an action star. He's a serious protagonist. And with this movie, I think the biggest draw is the transformation. I generally needed to check 2 or 3 times when the trailer came out to make sure that, this is actually this actor. And I think it's going to be fascinating for him as well because he has long played the hero, the good-looking guy, and I feel like with this part he has a really good opportunity to play around more and try different things and show us more of his palette as an actor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about how we are used to see him as Thor, and it's a really good moment for him to have a change of scenery.
Yes, absolutely. I think both from his side and from our side, we're both really excited. Yeah.
George Miller knows how to keep us glued to the seats with his action scenes. Is there a scene in the trailer that you can't wait to see it on the big screen?
To be honest, the whole aspect that really intrigues me the most is the whole transformation into Furiosa as we know her and see her in Fury Road. I think there's quite an arc that we are expected to see in this movie, and I'm more interested in the final steps of Anya becoming the Furiosa that we got to know through the Charlize Theron performance. I think that's going to be really exciting. It's really cool when you walk into a movie and you know that you're going to see a legendary character in their first steps, and then they're going to take you all the way into the transformation of the character as we know them all this time.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. To me, it's not really a scene from the trailer, but I think I read yesterday that they shot a really long action scene in 70 days or something like that, and I'm excited to see what's that continuous 15 minutes or like scene, how it's going to look like.
I mean, it's interesting because when Fury Road came out, Tom Hardy actually stated that he owed an apology to the director because he wasn't able to truly grasp what they were doing while they were shooting it. Because basically they were shooting, as we all know, pretty much one long action scene. And that makes sense. I mean, I imagine myself being in that film and behind the scenes, and you think to yourself, okay, either this is going to be the work of a genius or it's going to be complete and utter chaos. And thankfully, we got the work of a genius. And again, I feel like Miller really understands how to blend in action with narrative. I feel like most Hollywood films, what happens is that there's a story going on, and then it's as if the story is paused for the action, and then we go back to the story, and then we go back to the action. Here, I feel like it all blends in naturally with each other, and it all complements each other. And you see how, for example, in Fury Road, different characters react to the action, respond to the action physically, and you learn about them. And I really feel like we can expect something like this here too. I think, there are not many directors who can do what he does, and I would say he's the only director who can do exactly what he does in the way that he does. There's only one Miller, and that's evident.
There's only one Miller, yeah, well said. And how about Junkie XL? He looks like he's back for the soundtrack.
Yeah, I think with Fury Road, he set an absolute precedent into how composers tackle action films. It's very interesting because he's been very known to create some really cool remixes and versions of already established themes as well. And I feel like that's an awesome exercise as a composer to keep evolving in the future. And I feel like he was an integral part of the soul in the first movie. So it would have been very disappointing if he wasn't in the second, in this new prequel of the Furiosa legacy.
I feel like even though his style is pretty energetic and you can recognize him, also each soundtrack he does, it's pretty distinct. And I know immediately when I hear it if it's Fury Road or other project he did.
Yeah. And that to me is a true testament to what a talented guy he is. I mean, it's quite a balance to have a recognizable voice as a composer, but at the same time, for each of your work to feel completely unique when it comes to the world that you're exploring musically. So
we see you in cinema then from the 24th?
Absolutely, with my popcorn, ready to watch the crazy things that Miller has shot for us. And this is what cinema is all about. I mean, you said it when we started the conversation that it's all about just being in the room together with other strangers and realizing that we all share the same emotions at the same time. For me, that's That's basically sort of a religious experience, and you just cannot copy this at home. I mean, how many times have we watched at home a movie that we had seen inside the cinema hall, and we just make the comparison, and just because the audience is not there with us, we lose at least 50% of that excitement. So this is clearly, a movie for the big screen. This is what cinema is all about.
I can't wait to see it. Vă așteptăm și pe voi la Cineplex, începând cu 24 mai, să vedeți Furioza. Și până atunci vă rugăm să dați un like, share sau subscribe, pentru că vom posta un episod nou în fiecare săptămână.
Yep, what he said.